Imagine this. The camera lights go on, the media crowd waits in suspense, and in the midst of it all, one name reverberates around the world. Jungkook. But this time, it's not just about the music. It's not just about the grand stage or the global chart record. No, it's a much deeper, more complex story. And, let's be honest, it rocks the South Korean entertainment world more. Because behind Jungkook's incredible success, there was one thing that many people never expected, a big plan from HYBE that turned out to be a complete mess. Yeah, right. HYBE's entire plan collapsed, and ironically, the cause is precisely the maknae that they are most proud of themselves. But wait a minute, this is not a story about a split or a cheap drama. It's a story about how one individual can change the course of the entertainment industry with the power of his or her authenticity, even to the point of shaking the foundations of the system that raised him or her. Let's pull back a little to a time when HYBE, or what we used to know as Big Hit Entertainment, was still busy designing BTS's future strategy. At that time, Hyuk, the big brain behind the group's success, prepared a series of big plans so that BTS would stay at the top, even though one by one the members would undergo military service. The vision was ambitious: to create a new era of BTS, where each member would shine with a solo project, but still carry one common thread: BTS's narrative as a whole. And everything went according to plan, until Jungkook stepped off the stage in his own way. When Jungkook released 7, no one expected that the song would become not just a global hit, but a phenomenon that completely shook the structure of the Korean music business. He's not just a solo debut, he's breaking industry boundaries that have limited idols. While HYBE might have imagined moderate success, Jungkook exploded internationally, breaking Billboard charts, dominating Spotify globally, and even overtaking major American artists in streaming stats. Music analysts began calling it the Asian pop blueprint, a new formula that showed that an idol could stand on the global stage without the help of America's giant agency system. This is where the cracks start to appear. HYBE had a plan, but the world had its own. Jungkook is no longer just a HYBE icon. He's become such an independent global face that even international brands like Calvin Klein, Dior, and Versace are willing to adjust their schedules for just one thing: making sure Jungkook can attend. Imagine not the artist following the brand's schedule, but the brand following the artist's schedule. HYBE executives, who are usually used to controlling every detail of his artist's promotions, began to realize that they could no longer fully control Jungkook's narrative. Every time they try to adjust the concept or strategy, the global public is already moving faster. The digital world creates its own stories, and Jungkook becomes the center of its orbit. With 100 million followers across platforms, he doesn't need a press conference or a big ad to make an impact. Just one short video, one performance, or even one photo at the airport, and the global market vibrates instantly. Even Hyuk, who had been known for his calmness and sharpness of vision, finally had to intervene directly. In a public interview, he said in a reflective tone, "We designed a great system, but sometimes the system itself loses by the natural forces of a person." The sentence went viral, and some people interpreted it as an admission that HYBE was now at a crossroads. However, does this mean Jungkook and HYBE's relationship is deteriorating? It's not that simple. What is actually happening is more like friction between two great powers: individual creativity against corporate structure. HYBE builds systems that are organized, scalable, and analytically based. Jungkook, on the other hand, built his strength through spontaneity, honesty, and human connection. Two conflicting but equally powerful approaches. And in the end, the public decides who wins. But what exactly made HYBE's grand plan collapse? Why did Jungkook create such a domino effect? To understand the answer, we'll have to dive into a deeper journey into HYBE's business structure, Bang Si-hyuk's ambitions, and the big decisions that eventually turn around. Because behind Jungkook's simple smile, there is a story full of intrigue, strategy, and surprises that even industry executives are speechless about. It all starts with one thing: control. After BTS reached the top of the world, HYBE didn't want to lose momentum. They built a near-perfect ecosystem: global labels, own digital platforms, Weverse, creative subsidiaries, to investment divisions that touch the AI and metaverse industries. Bang Si-hyuk's vision is clear: creating an entertainment system that doesn't depend on one artist alone. Each step is arranged in such a way that BTS, in whatever form, remains relevant in the future. However, in the real world, there is one thing that cannot be completely controlled: human attractiveness. When Jungkook released his solo project, 7, HYBE was actually aiming for big results, but with realistic expectations. They knew Jungkook was popular, but probably hadn't expected that he would change the way the world viewed Korean music. In less than a week, 7 not only topped the charts in Asia, but also led Spotify's global charts for more than 8 consecutive weeks. Not only that, the song became the first K-pop song to reach 1 billion streams in the fastest time in the platform's history. The effect? The global entertainment world is beginning to change its focus. American labels like Columbia and Universal suddenly opened discussions about how they could fit Jungkook's formula into their systems. He became a model study in the Harvard Business Review, referred to as the next phase of artist globalization. It all happened without a grand strategy from HYBE. And that's exactly where the problem is. HYBE, known for his tight control of the artist's narrative, began to lose ground. They realized that Jungkook's success had gone beyond their own infrastructure. While the internal promotion system is still preparing long-term plans, the digital world has already made Jungkook trending in 50 countries. Any attempt by them to keep up is seen too late. Imagine a large ship sailing with a modern navigation system. But suddenly, there is a natural wave that is stronger and carries the ship faster than predicted. That's Jungkook to HYBE, a natural force that no strategy can tame. Bang Si-hyuk even said in an interview after Golden's release, "We are relearning how to deal with artists who are already the world itself." In an industrial system accustomed to linear thinking, Jungkook appears as an exponential phenomenon. And this is where HYBE's foundations begin to falter, because for the first time, they have to align themselves with the artist, not the other way around. After 7's global success, many within the industry referred to Jungkook as an autonomous entity. It remains part of HYBE, but at the same time it has its own gravity. When Calvin Klein chose her as its global ambassador, the decision came not from HYBE, but from the brand's New York headquarters. HYBE is no longer in full control of major projects involving Jungkook, as the brands want to negotiate directly with him. That rarely happens, even on a global scale of top artists. Imagine his position: a Korean idol, still under a major label, but as influential as a multinational corporation. It's no wonder that many executives at HYBE began to regard Jungkook as an anomaly in a system that was too perfect. They can no longer write scripts, because the world is already writing them faster. But to Jungkook himself, he seemed unaffected by the chaos. He kept working, kept singing, and kept showing professionalism without engaging in internal drama. However, it was precisely his calmness that made the system even more unstable as the public began to see that Jungkook could walk without the full support of the label. It created a new precedent, that an artist could maintain global power without bowing to old structures. Hyuk, who is known to be rational, finally realizes something bigger. In the viral interview, he said in a calm but deep tone, "The system was created to strengthen the artist. But when that artist becomes larger than the system, then we must learn new ways to serve them." That sentence became a turning point, and also an acknowledgement that the Jungkook era had begun. When news of the collapse of HYBE's grand plan began to spread among the industry, many wondered, did Hyuk, the founder, really have to intervene? The answer, yes. And that's a pretty rare moment. Because all this time, Hyuk is known as a figure who prefers to work behind the scenes, strategizing, monitoring data, and letting the artist be the spotlight. But this time, silence was not an option. The world demands an explanation. And of course, the public wants to hear directly from him. What really happened after Jungkook's success that exceeded anyone's expectations? In an industry forum held in Seoul early in 2025, Hyuk finally spoke, not in a defensive tone, but with surprisingly honest reflections. He said, "We at HYBE always thought that a strong system would create a great artist. But now we're learning that sometimes big artists force the system to grow faster." The sentence sounds simple, but for those who understand the internal dynamics of the entertainment industry, the statement is like a small shock in the foundation of the K-pop business. Because the meaning is clear, HYBE admitted that they can no longer fully control Jungkook's career direction. However, what makes the moment interesting is not just the words, but the expression. Hyuk didn't look upset. He didn't look disappointed. He just looked amazed. He knew that Jungkook's success was not the result of chance, but the result of something much bigger than just business strategy. Authentic human strength. What Jungkook is doing is something that can't be calculated by algorithms, and it can't be designed in a boardroom. He created something that we all learn from him now. This statement, without realizing it, changed the way many people viewed the relationship between artists and agencies. For the first time, a major CEO of a global entertainment company has publicly acknowledged that his artists are superior to the system created to govern them. Not many dare to say that, especially in Korea's corporate culture that tends to be hierarchical and rigid. But Hyuk does, because he knows the world has changed, and Jungkook is proof of that. On the other hand, the statement also became an internal alarm for HYBE management. Because if one artist can shake up such a big system, what about the other artists who will come after? Will they follow in Jungkook's footsteps, create a self-sufficient force, and make the agency lose complete control of their narrative? Those questions began to surface in boardrooms, in strategic reports, even in academic discussions dissecting the Jungkook effect phenomenon. And it's true, after Hyuk's interview, many analysts said that the HYBE effect has now been replaced by the Jungkook effect. That is, the public is no longer focused on the system, but on the individuals within it. HYBE may have a big structure, but Jungkook has a stronger magnet. And that's what makes the old balance in the K-pop world start to change. However, in the midst of all that, Hyuk still showed his human side. In another interview with a Japanese business magazine, he said, "I don't feel defeated. I feel lucky to be able to witness the birth of something bigger than we ever planned." That sentence moved many fans, as it showed that despite the business friction, the relationship between Hyuk and Jungkook is still based on deep respect. They are not two fighting sides, they are two generations representing the changing times. Bang Si-hyuk even admitted that HYBE is now changing its internal system to be more flexible, more open to the artist-led approach. He called Jungkook a case study that inspired the transformation of artist management across the company. In other words, Jungkook's success didn't destroy HYBE, it forced her to evolve. And in the ever-changing world of entertainment, evolution is the only way to survive. But if Bang Si-hyuk has confessed everything, what does it mean for HYBE and BTS's future? Is this a sign that the era of system-controlled groups is over? Or is it precisely the beginning of a new format where artists and labels work as equal partners instead of superiors and subordinates? Let's move on to the next chapter, because that's where the future of the entertainment industry begins to take shape. In an all-strategic world, full of data, analytics, and market calculations, there is one thing that cannot be planned: sincerity. And that's Jungkook's main weapon that even HYBE can't replicate through their marketing team. He is not a figure formed from a script, but from real experience. His every action feels natural, his every interaction feels genuine, and his every step always shows that he knows who he is, without the need to be directed by the system. When he shows up at the airport without overstyling, wearing simple clothes, or speaking casually on a live broadcast without promotional filters, the public doesn't see an idol, they see a human being. And in an age of social media filled with fake imagery and imagery, that authenticity has become something of a rarity. The world is hungry for real public figures, and Jungkook delivers that in an elegant way. Even international brands are aware of this. Calvin Klein, for example, chose Jungkook not because of his popularity numbers alone, but because of his natural appeal that transcends promotional imagery. They know when Jungkook wears their products, the world doesn't see endorsement, they see self-expression. That's the reason why Calvin Klein's sales jumped sharply after Jungkook's campaign, surpassing their internal expectations. In the business world, it's called brand humanization. And Jungkook does it without a plan, without a strategy, just by being himself. Ironically, it was precisely because of this that the HYBE system seemed to collapse. Because they built a mechanism designed to control every detail of the promotion. But Jungkook proved that the most power comes from what can't be controlled: authenticity. He is not just an idol, he is a human phenomenon that breaks through the boundaries of algorithms. And now, when we look back, the collapse of HYBE's grand plan was not a failure, it was a transformation. The world is changing. And it is Jungkook who points out his new direction. He became a symbol that in this modern era, artists who dare to be themselves can not only succeed, but can change the system around them. Bang Si-hyuk may no longer control Jungkook, but he admits one important thing: if artists like Jungkook can make our system evolve faster, then it's a victory for everyone. And with that, one thing became clear: HYBE didn't really lose. They just have to rebuild their world with a new center of gravity. And the center was named Jungkook.